Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here. This is going to be my patch 12.1 Affliction Warlock DPS guide, and it recovering talents in both single target and AOE, as well as rotations in single target, AOE, tier sets, stat weights, and basically anything you need to know to be the best Affliction Warlock you can be in patch 12.1. Now, getting right into it here, our tier set in patch 12.1 for Affliction is quite interesting. The 2P says Wither or Corruption if you're not playing Hellcaller, damage is increased by 25%, and Agony itself is increased by 15%. The 4P states each active unstable affliction increases your damage dealt by your spells and abilities by 2% up to a maximum of 6%. Now, in addition to that, Seed of Corruption applies unstable affliction at 20% effectiveness to your target. So it gives you a stacking 2-4-6 at 1 stack, 2 stack, 3 stack damage increase, while also applying a UA to your main Seed of Corruption target, which gives you a bit more like priority slash funnel damage, AOE, or Seed of Corruption, I guess slash sow the seeds spamming base settings. Now, as far as stat weights are concerned, I highly encourage you to run your own sim on raidbots.com, more specifically a Top Gear sim. Doing so and scrolling down to the gems and enchant section, selecting different ones, will give you the highest overall output for your character. The reason you do this is because everyone's gear varies. Your gear varies from mine. I might have haste as my highest simming stat. You might have crit, vice versa. It's important to run sims for your own character. If you don't want to do that, it's roughly crit equals haste, mastery, and then verse, sometimes verse mastery swap. But realistically, they're all pretty close in 12.1 in like this sims. And if you don't want to run your own sims and follow just a general blind stat priority, you're likely leaving damage on the table. Now, very briefly, I want to pause the video here and talk about today's sponsor, which is actually me and my Patreon. For those that don't know, I've had a Patreon for a handful of years now. We recently went through and added a handful of new perks to the Patreon, such as early access to the spreadsheet, my entire UI, and a handful of other perks along the way. Thank yous at the end of every video that's applicable and things. And at this point, if you're looking at supporting the channel or would like to, I'd encourage you to check out the Patreon. A lot of perks there for you guys. We're adding new things every so often, and I keep y'all up to date on what's happening with the channel, PTR, and things of the sort. If you'd like to, there's a link down below directly to my Patreon. Now, getting into single target talents for Affliction Warlock in patch 12.1, we're going to look at Hellcaller single target, Soul Harvester single target, and like a Soul Harvester like Cleave-esque build for like fights you might want single target emphasis, but seed and cleave damage as well. Now, I want to say here, Hellcaller is not as good as Soul Harvester at this point in time. That may change. I'd encourage you to check my website, kalamazi.gg, for most up-to-date builds, for Mythic Plus, single target, all that. I'll update it all, as long as the patch goes on, and all that. Now, briefly, this is the Hellcaller single target build. It's not as good as Soul Harvester. Both builds do indeed play Malefic Grasp. They're both playing pretty much the same thing if you toggle between the two. Like, not much really changes. Basically, Hellcaller is playing Shadow Bolt over Drain Soul, and you're playing, Sacrilege Dark Strike over Cold Weak compared to Soul Harvester. So if you're looking at Hellcaller and want to play it for whatever reason in single target, I will play a build like this. Links to the builds down below in the description as well. The build you're going to see played in the raid for like a single target emphasis, if it is played, is going to be, however, Soul Harvester. Now, there was recent buffs to things that affect Siphon Life versus Absolute Corruption. You're not playing in this build, even if you were. AC is a bit higher from what I've seen. The big thing with Soul Harvester versus Hellcaller is that Soul Harvester has Dark Harvest. Dark Harvest is a minute cooldown, but Cold Weak gives you a reduction on Dark Harvest cooldown, making it around 40-ish seconds, give or take. Whenever you cast Dark Harvest, Soul Harvester, you get shards through Shadow of Death. That's 3 shards per channel. Hellcaller does not have that. Hellcaller has a minute cooldown in Malevolence, which gives you stacks of Wither, basically stacks to your Wither, which is your dot that replaces Corruption. And whenever you cast Unstable Afflictions, it makes that Wither stack higher and do more damage via Blackened Soul. Now, as far as, once again, a single target versus, one versus the other, both are playing Malefic Grasp here, which means like it's sort of a stationary kind of playstyle when you have your Dark Lore active every 2 minutes. Channeling Malefic Grasp, you can't move very much. However, Soul Harvester plays Drain Soul, comparatively Hellcaller playing Shadow Bolt. Soul Harvester has a lot of damage amps to things like Drain Soul, technically to both, to like Necrolite Teachings and things of the sort, but Drain Soul, when you reach a 20% health threshold, doubles its damage. Execute Claws in conjunction with things like Necrolite Teachings, other effects, makes it pretty strong and better than Shadow Bolt for Hellcaller comparatively in single target. Now, as far as like the Cleave build here, it is playing Soul Harvester. I would assume if you want to play Hellcaller, it's probably the same thing. Bit more experimental. It's looking something like this, where you're still playing a few like single target-esque based elements. You're not playing Hedonic Gorging, you're playing Shard Instability, you're playing the seeds for like Seed Cleave, all that, Dark Harvest, everything else. Compared to the Malefic Grasp build, not a whole lot really changes. I guess some things do, but you're pulling out of the more single target to the tree here and hopping more into like the AOE Cleave side, Shadow Bolt, comparatively to Drain Soul, and you're still playing things like Malefic Grasp, Nether Plating, Icon Tract, comparatively to this not playing plating, still Icon Tract, Grasp, so on and so forth. I've linked these builds down below if you want them, but currently Soul Harvester is what you're going to play both in single target and, spoilers ahead, AoE. Two Mythic Plus builds for Affliction Warlock in patch 12.1. Hellcaller and Soul Harvester really don't vary much in this area either. Now, if I was going to look to play Hellcaller in M+, which I wouldn't be looking to do, because Soul Harvester is better at M+ than Hellcaller by a good bit, this is likely where I would start. Once again, links to these builds down below in the video description. The main difference here is Hellcaller is playing Malefic Grasp in M+, comparatively to Soul Harvester, which is not. It is playing a point in potent soul shards. Now, there could be a world where like Hellcaller just shifts in the potent soul shards here as well, depending where things land. I will say, when it comes to Hellcaller and Soul Harvester both playing Siphon Life or Absolute Corruption, both these builds do path down into Hedonic Gorging. With that being the case, Hedonic Gorging buffs Siphon Life a bit more additionally, which means your single target gets a bit better additionally as well when you're playing things like Siphon Life comparatively to Absolute Corruption. In a sense, Absolute Corruption does save a lot of globals. Now, when it comes to like trash packs and things, you're spamming Seed of Corruption. You're spamming so you're not really having to refresh Corruption regardless. Whether it's permanent or not, it's basically permanent. All you're casting is Seed of Corruption in AoE. When it comes to bosses, however, if you opt to play Siphon Life, it's important to note here that your Corruption, if you're playing Soul Harvester, or Wither, if you're playing Hellcaller, is going to have a duration on it. It's not permanent like you're playing Absolute Corruption. Now, this will lead to, from what I understand, from what I've seen in things, assumingly a bit higher of a single target DPS output. How much? Honestly, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a difference. Maybe a little bit. I'm still playing Absolute Corruption and M+. I've played both. Honestly, it's sort of dungeon dependent, but if you want more ease of play, AC is fine. If you want Siphon Life, that's okay too. I'm gonna lean towards AC initially, but honestly, Siphon's been fine in testing as well. Just sort of dungeon based, and that's that. Besides that though, everything else is pretty much the exact same. Let's get into rotations. Okay, looking at Affliction's single target opener and rotation here for patch 12.1, we're looking at Soul Harvester here. We're not gonna look at Hellcaller in combat. It's very similar. The only difference is you don't generate shards. Whenever you cast Dark Harvest as Hellcaller, you only do as Soul Harvester thanks to Shadow of Death. As Hellcaller, you have a capstone, a minute cooldown. You pop it on cooldown. It's basically on pull with Dark Lair, a minute later again with Dark Lair every 2. It syncs up every 2 minutes with your Dark Lair. That's basically that. Now, as far as Soul Harvester is concerned, you do get more Nightfall procs due to Seth's Volition. Whenever you cast Haunt, it gives you a stack of Nightfall. Nightfall is a max of 2 stacks. You don't want to overcap or sit at 2 for a while because you can get a 3rd stack coming in, but it's a cap of 2. So you basically waste a stack if you get a proc and you're sitting at 2 stacks, right? So, as far as opener is concerned here, let's say we're pulling a boss, put up a CD timer for about 15 here. You're going to precast Haunt with about 2 seconds left before the boss is pulled, so it has travel time, hits the boss, basically you're good to go. And that's that. We are playing a channel trinket here. If you're not playing the channel trinket, pop it at the same time. You don't got a channel though. So we're going to cast a Haunt here into an Agony, Corruption, roll a couple Unstable Afflictions. So UA. We're going to Dark Harvest here. Right after this, we're going to channel our trinket here. Then we're going to go Dark Lair. If you don't get a refresh of Nightfall there, I'm going to cast a really fast Malefic Grasp and then go UA, Agony, Haunt here, refresh Nightfall, Drain again. Roll more Agonies here, or Unstable Afflictions here. UA, Malefic Grasp, good bit. Unstable Affliction, refresh Haunt, Malefic Grasp, basically Haunt, and one final Malefic Grasp for Dark Lair expires. And there you go. Double Nightfall stack here. And the big game outside of this is just trying to like maintain a 3-ish stack of Unstable Affliction. Because once again, due to your tier set, we're going to harvest here. You basically have a 6% buff on your character damage-wise as long as you have 3 Unstable Afflictions rolling anywhere. So if you're not like needing to spend shards endlessly or needlessly, at times you can sort of like play it and pool a little bit to maintain a 3-stack, or at least a 2-stack, give or take. But a lot of it does depend on Shard Instability procs, which is free instant cast Unstable Afflictions, and other things of the sort. Shard Gen, RNG, so on and so forth. Now you see here, my Dark Harvest is coming up again in about 10 seconds here. We had a cooldown reduction from casting Unstable Affliction, so we're going to roll one here, and you want to harvest basically on cooldown as much as you can, because the longer it's off cooldown, not getting CDR, more shards you're essentially wasting in a sense, right? So cast some UAs here, stack it up again, cast Drain Soul. That's it. Basically filling the Drain Souls, casting UAs, keeping our stack count high as long as we can, and going from there. If you want a potion, obviously potion with your trinket in your opener, and there you go. Now, as far as like our Dark Lair is concerned, we have Dark Lair coming up in about 22-ish seconds here, which should line up pretty well with our Dark Harvest timing, give or take. So we're gonna like sort of just chill for a little bit, maintain Agony here, obviously, refresh our Haunt, cast a UA. I want to pool a few shards from our Dark Lair so I can have a lot of UAs rolling during Dark Lair, but not like overcap in a sense. So I want to cast a couple of these. There we go, there we go. Roll one more here. I'll Trinket. Harvest here is fine. Dark Lair. They roll a couple more UAs here. UA, drain a bit. UA, refresh Agony, Malefic Grasp, refresh Haunt, roll more Unstable Afflictions here. UA, drain a bit, and roll more Unstable Afflictions. You're basically dumping shards into UA in this window. You can see Dark Lair is going to expire in 3 seconds here. When Dark Lair expires, so does your Malefic Grasp window. So one final little grasp if you can, catch the Agony, roll UAs, so on and so forth. You can see right about now, my Dark Harvest is about off cooldown. One more UA it will be basically, so you cast Harvest here and go from there. It's pretty simple. You're spending your shards on Unstable Afflictions in single target to do damage. During your Malefic Grasp window, casting Grasp basically flares your dots up to do more damage. That's the gist of it. Builder Spender, Dark Harvest generates more shards, feels good to play, not too involved. Honestly, pretty simple. Now, as far as your AOE rotation goes, Affliction, Soul Harvester, and M+, 12-1. We're going to look at Soul Harvester again here. Same to the single target build. If you want to play Hellcaller with Malevolence, you have basically a minute cooldown. You pop it on CD and go from there. There were changes made to Hellcaller in 12-1 PTR that make it nowhere near as competitive in M+. So you're playing Soul Harvester here. Big difference here, not as much single target talents or emphasis here. You're spamming Seed with So, basically, in 2 or more stacked targets, and doing just a bunch of AoE damage. Now, with our tier set, once again, our Seed of Corruption target, you also apply Unstable Affliction at 20% effectiveness. Keep in mind, those UAs do give you that stacking 2, 4, 6% buff from your 4-piece tier set. So you're spamming Seed a bunch, but you also are stacking your 4-piece as well by casting Seed. So we're going to open up here. It varies a bit based on how the tank is pulling the pack and how it's being rounded up. Typically, if a pack is being pulled, roughly it's getting rounded up together. I'll cast a few Agonies when things getting rounded up for some shard generation. It's stacked up, cast a Seed on a target, haunt the target as well. Dark Lair, Trinket, Potion, whatever you want. Then basically Dark Harvest. Now, there's going to be a decent amount of times where you just cast Dark Harvest when you have 3, 4, 5 shards and you overcap. It's just sort of how it plays in AoE. You've got a lot more shard generation in AoE compared to what you do in single target at times due to more Agonies being active. So rolling at Dark Harvest, number 1, does damage in AoE, and number 2, buffs your Seed of Corruption, or basically your shards being spent with Succulent Soul Shards, causing them to do more damage. So you want to get it on cooldown basically as fast as possible. Besides that, you're just maintaining your Agonies here, casting your Nightfall procs via Shadow Bolt. There was a change made late in PTR that removed Nightfalls, giving you free instant cast Seed of Corruptions, and made it so Shard Instability does that. So you have to basically proc Shard Instability by casting a Nightfall proc, and if it procs, then your Seed is free. It's not just Nightfall procs give you free seeds, it's Nightfall into a proc, which then can give you a free seed. It's basically a proc into a proc that can then give you a free seed versus just seed being free by a Nightfall. This is basically it. You're going to cast basically Dark Harvest on cooldown, which you did a minute ago there. It comes around pretty fast in mass AoE, a lot of shard gen. This is basically it. There's not much to it. Affliction's AoE is pretty simple. If you like hitting one button in AoE, it's the spec for you. If not, well, you know, there's that. A couple things here though. If you are focusing on a higher health mob or a prior mob, we're going to harvest again here. You want to make sure you're casting Seed for the most part onto your Haunt target, because Haunt buffs the damage that mob takes considerably. You can see we have 3 stacks here, 4 stacks here, so on and so forth. In addition to that, Agony. You want to maintain a handful of Agonies here as well in AoE. Typically, I'll try to maintain around like 5, give or take roughly 4 or 5. The shard generation and the amount of seeds you can cast with the change that came in to Nocturnal Yield being removed does make agony maintenance a bit more relevant in AoE because you have basically less free resources via instant cast seeds from Nightfall being removed. Right about now, you have Dark Glare, so I'll cast my Trinket basically. I'd cast Dark Glare, cast my Haunt, throw a Shadow Bolt here roughly, and begin spamming Seed again. Seed, Seed, cast a Harvest here, and just Seed. It's very simple. The AoE is good, it's consistent. The Dreadlord procs are RNG based on your Apex talent, but honestly, if you like spamming Seed, Affliction is going to be the spec for you. So thanks for watching, guys. It wraps it up. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully it gave you a better understanding of how Affliction is looking in patch 12.1. It's not that different compared to what you played in 12.0, but we're getting there. Hopefully more changes in 12.2. We'll see where it goes. But if you like spamming Seed and things, well, you're gonna like Affliction. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to all my supporters on Patreon for all your support, y'all. Thank y'all so much. Without it, I wouldn't be able to keep doing what I'm doing for y'all, making videos, guides, all that, and I greatly appreciate it. If you aren't supporting on Patreon or looking to do so, should be a link up here, as well as down below in the description. There's a handful of new perks on Patreon as well. Spreadsheet access, the UI, a couple other things here and there. Thank you at the end of the video, obviously, scrolling here, which is great. And thank y'all for all support. If you're here for the Destro or Demo guides, those are coming out next couple of days as well. We should have all the guides out by the time the patch goes live. Not like the raid on the 18th, but the patch on the 11th is the plan. The next month is going to be insanely busy. You get the Race to World first, which I'm casting for Liquid, and then whenever that's over, back home for a few days, and back out to Cali for BlizzCon. If you're there, say hey. Love to say hey and hang out. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch y'all again soon on stream. Peace.